Welcome to Plot Twist, the show where we unpack the unexpected turns that shape our careers, relationships, and ourselves. I'm your host, Tiana, leader, speaker, and corporate mom. And I'm sitting down with guests that prove that growth begins often at the twist of a story. Let's dive in. If you follow me on social media, you already know I love challenging the status quo, whether it's corporate strategy, leadership norms, or how women show up and are represented in the workplace. And today's special guest is doing that and raising the bar. I am joined by Doctora Margaret Carrillo, founder of Latina Voices Institute, where she's empowering Latina women to claim their voice, their power, and their place in the American workplace. Thank you so much, Doctora Margaret, for joining the show.
Absolutely. I am so excited. Latina Voices Institute is here to amplify Latina voices in all of those places and spaces that you mentioned. So I can't wait to dig in and share a little bit more about what we've done and where we're going next.
Absolutely. So let me start off first with your title, Doctora.
Yes.
This is a new title for me.
Okay.
For everyone
It was to me too.
Was it? All right, so for everyone listening, Doctora Margaret, she has her doctorate. So she is a doctor, but her title is Doctora. I did some research on Doctora, but I think it's more impactful when you explain it. Can you tell the audience what this means to Latina culture?
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't know, in my head, I thought, people who are doctors are medical doctors. And then later in life, I kind of learned, oh, you can get a doctor of education. And all of those doctor degrees, people, regardless of what they earn it in, will say, I'm a doctor of, and it'll be like the first name or the last name. My doctorate is a 5-year study, and it's a Doctor of Liberal Studies. And so I am Dr. Mary Margaret Carrillo. That is my name, that is my title. I want to be absolutely true to my culture, and I use the title Doctora, Doctora MMC. And Doctora means that I'm a Latina doctor. I have a doctorate degree and I'm a Latina. And when you talk about, there's so few women who have a doctorate degree anyway, but there are less than 1% of the people who have a doctorate are actually Latinas. So there's a very small group of us. And my goal is I'm using this name, this title that I was like a lifelong in earning so that we can normalize. Everyone has a doctora friend, and I get to be that.
I love that. And you are my first Doctora friend. So I am so honored to have Mary Margaret. That experience for me. It's really nice to see a space where we don't have that gender specific titling. We have the option of doctor or doctora.
Mm-hmm.
I really do love that the Latina culture has embraced that and given a space for women to be recognized for such an amazing accomplishment and achievement.
Thank you so much. And I will add at that point too, what I find as fun is I love going on LinkedIn and just filtering through. If you just type in DRA, because those are the abbreviations for doctora, you will see all of the women who are Latinas, who have a doctorate, who use the DRA title. And I just encourage people to do that because you never know, like let's make all of these connections. They might be one right around your area.
I need to do that. I need to know how many DRAs are, already in my network and go find some more.
Right?
For my question, for listeners that are meeting you for the first time, what is something that they would never guess by just looking at your resume?
Okay. What isn't on my resume is how much I love story. And I know that that comes from being a kid and having my dad share with me, listen to the lyrics of songs. The songs that we're listening to are telling a story. So, yes, the beat, the music, the melody, those are important. But what are the words saying to us? And who's the artist? So, there's like a story, and then there's a story behind the story. That is my jam. I have fabulous familia, and I love, going to somebody's house and they make this beautiful cheesecake every year for a holiday event. And I'm like, I don't want to just enjoy the cheesecake. I want to know, like, how did you learn how to make that? Who taught you that? What are some ingredients that you would like? What's the story? And I always vibe about that. My boyfriend gets like excited. He's like, "You want to know the story of everything?" And I'm like, "I really do." Because it helps in that connection.
It makes me think of those behind the lyrics videos that I
Yes,
see on social media where someone breaks down the lyrics to a song and you're like, "Wait a minute, they did say that in the song, but we're just singing along," and like, "Why did they write that? What does that mean?"
absolutely. Yes, 100%. Those are my
Yeah.
most frequently watched TikToks.
Are they really? That's
They
funny.
are.
And I bet, like, you catch it the first go round. The rest of us are
Yes,
just like, "Yeah, just dancing along." You're like, "Did you hear what they just said? You may not be dancing so long."
I love that.
If your life had a plot twist chapter title, because the show is Plot Twist, what would that plot twist chapter be and why?
Okay. The plot twist chapter title for me would be The Power of Voice. And even though I learned a little bit about that from my family and along my life, what really made the biggest impact to the trajectory of who I am and where I am today is one of the first classes I took in my master's program. And it was called Education, Equity, and Human Rights. And the professor was Dr. Candace Bledsoe. That class opened my eyes to the real power of narrative, of story. It was how stories shape and reshape entire systems. The way that we shape a story, the way that we shape a brand, the way that we shape a movement really creates that impact for everyone else. And that class in that moment back in over a decade really changed my focus from an academic standpoint. I still didn't really have an idea, but after that class, I knew I wanted to learn more about the power of story and the power of voice.
I think about marketing and how things are fed to us in the commercial state based on how that story is told. So you can use the power of your voice or communication to create something good, but you can also kind of pivot it and have it tell a different story.
Yeah, and it's a true plot twist because it really was from a secondary thought of I know story is important. I know I like to hear the lyrics behind the lyrics,
Mhm.
but to see it and the power that it had in people, in policy, in education, in law, I was hooked.
You earned your doctorate later in life, and that's a pretty bold move. What inspired you to pursue that at a point when most people in your peer group are stepping back and not stepping in deeper into their education and their career?
Yeah, I always share with people, I definitely did not grow up thinking I want to be a doctora. I was going to be an astronaut.
Really?
Then I learned that that's a lot of science. And so I shifted. And then I think I wanted to be like the owner of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory's chocolate factory. I had a lot of life goals up to that point, but earning a doctorate was definitely not one of them. For me, it wasn't about chasing a title. It was about I found a purpose. And it was in a master's program, and my professors told me, "You're doing amazing work. You should keep going. Keep going." And I'm like, "To what? What do you like, to where?" Like, I don't even know what that means. I'm halfway through. I might graduate with this master's. That's an accomplishment for me. And they're like, "The research that you're doing, the things that you're starting to put together, going into this doctorate program would be amazing for you." I think I reached out to a point of, okay, I don't want to worry about what if.
Mhm.
I had two daughters at home. My daughters were high school and early college, and I knew I've been modeling lifelong learning for them.
Mhm.
I remember talking to them saying, like, you guys, if I pursue this, I'm going to be like in my 50s when I get this doctorate. And both my millennial and Gen Z daughters looked up at me and they're like, "Mom, you're going to be in your 50s anyway, so might as well."
Yeah, you might
And
as
I'm
well.
like, "Okay, okay, here we go." And it's a value for me because women of color especially are told, "Oh, doors close after a certain age." So I
Yeah.
blew all of that up and said, "Let's go do this."
I always find it interesting when people make a change because someone else saw something in them
Yep.
that maybe they didn't see themselves, and they're like you were saying, "You gotta keep going," but that's almost kinda like the voice of a higher power.
What it did for me was I was like awakened by like courage, right? So what did it stir up in me? It stirred
Mhm.
up that courage. Courage that I didn't even know that I had. Like you just mentioned, people who were seeing things in me that I had yet to realize. I had to learn to unlearn a lot of things. A lot of things
Mhm.
like perfection. And oh my gosh, let me just tell you, I had a lifelong of those things. But this pursuit of this doctorate degree allowed me to lean in a lot more to authenticity. I found my voice, not the voice of everyone else, not the title that I was holding in everybody else's space, but my voice as a writer, as a scholar, as a leader.
Mhm.
And I remember going into my first class in my doctorate program, and my professors sitting there with all 19 of us, because we're in this cohort, five women. I'm the only Latina. And the professor saying, how many of you guys were 4.0 in grad school? And everybody's like raising their hands. How many of you have X number of years experience in your workplace, in leadership positions? And everybody's raising their hands. And it's like, how many of you are used to feedback that is going to push you and you're seeking that 4.0? And everyone's like, all of us are like, yes, that's me, that's me, that's me. And he's like, and now let all of that go because you're about to enter a 5-year program where truly grades don't matter. Where truly this is about you and your exploration, because we're going to enter this space of true learning. My gosh, what are you talking about? But he said it, he set us up for success. And that's what that journey was just let go.
And I would assume with your inquisitive mindset to wanna know the story behind it, I'm sure it deepened your experience to let it go, but then also ask those why questions on, "Okay, why am I letting this one go this time?"
Exactly, exactly, exactly. So it all comes full circle.
So let's talk more about your founding of Latina Voices Institute, also known as LVI. Now, you and I know each other and we've chatted about life. And I remember that you said to me that when you started Latina Voices Institute, the initial thought was it wasn't going to be your full time role. You were looking for full time opportunities at the same time. When was the moment that you realized Latina Voices Institute wasn't just an idea, that was your calling?
Yeah. I thought I'm gonna put just a little bit of effort into it. We started hosting events and we started creating places for people to be and share their story. And it was at one of those events that I started seeing people respond and react to it. People would come up to me afterwards and share how they've not been in a place or space that felt so warm and inviting and safe to really make authentic connection. And so often they go into these rooms of networking spaces, or they go into these, I don't know anybody moments, and it just feels raw and awkward. And they're like, this wasn't like this at all. People were coming to me in tears, speaking in English and Spanish, telling me their stories. People were talking like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. When's the next one? When's the next one? And then I started to be like sharing again with my trusted network. You know, I'm really starting to see the potential of this. But, it's not like I can do this. This is like, I can't, this can't be my thing, right? Because I don't know, like who
Why
would make
not?
it, right? Like who would make it their thing? Like, oh my gosh. And again, it is the people in a younger generation of like, yeah, just like, yes, of course. And so I hit this moment in 2024 where it was now or never. And it was a reflection of our leadership in our government. And it was, no matter what is happening in our world, I am responsible for my voice and what I choose to do. And I am choosing intentionally to pour in everything I've ever learned in my 25 plus years of nonprofit, higher ed, K 12. I'm pouring in everything I've learned from all the degrees that I have, in every lived experience as a mom, as a Mimi, everything into Latina Voices. And Once I made that decision, we have just been nonstop. And it's the absolute best thing ever. But I think it was the combination of everything happening at once and getting the feedback of this just feels safe.
Absolutely. I've been to Latina Voices Institute events, and it is deeper than just the professional aspect. There is some parts of that, but it does go deeper. So before LVI existed, what conversations or stories were missing for Latina women in those professional places and spaces?
Latinas, like everyone, I think women, and I'm going to speak about women here, we sign up for all of those leadership courses, right? Like, this is how you are a great leader. This is how you should dress. These are the words you should say. These are the check boxes of things that will make you a great leader. And after a lifetime of that, I'm like, never is there ever an opportunity to embrace your own culture and bring that with you. It is the exact opposite. It is, okay, if you're going to fit in, if you're going to become a leader in an organization or in the community, you need to almost let go of your cultural connection, authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And people often ask me, why is this Latina Voices? What about Latinos, which are men? What about other women? And I'm like, yes, I do speak about culture, but Latina culture is what I know. So what I share is absolutely transferable to everyone else. No matter who you are, stay true to your culture. It's okay that other people are uncomfortable. So, what was missing in these conversations was space for people to really engage and embrace and watch leaders who bring those authentic elements from their culture with them and make those connections. And that's what Latina Voices does. Everyone's welcome. 100% everybody comes,
Yeah.
but the programming is specific to highlight Latina leaders.
Absolutely. Come watch and come learn. It can
Mhm.
be insightful for, an ally to
Absolutely.
understand what is going on in that other cultural space that they don't have familiarity with, or at least
Yeah.
that was for me, or what are the things that are the same? Where can we see those parallels?
And we see that all the time. We have everyone, it's men, it's women, it's parents, it's children, people who are like, I'm bringing my 16-year-old son to this panel because he needs to be in a room with powerful women of color. Like, he just needs to. This is a young man in the world and he needs to see this as normal, not an exception. Other people who are like, I'm bringing my spouse. My spouse is not Latino or Latina, but I'm bringing my
Mm,
spouse because my spouse was the biggest supporter of me on my journey. And I want him to be in a room to see this as well.
that is great. So let's go back in time to when you hosted your very first event, which
Yes.
you've been doing public speaking for a while. I'm
Yeah.
talking about your first Latina Voices Institute event. What did you feel in that room that confirmed, yes, this is exactly where I'm meant to be?
Okay. What I was surprised with was how many people actually came to this event from all over the area. People who traveled more than like 40 miles to
Wow.
come to this dinner where I was sharing my research and my story and the vision of Latina Voices. I remember that there was a woman, I'm talking to her, and another
Yeah.
woman comes up and she came with her mom. And I don't speak great Spanish. Her mom is talking to me in Spanish and she's like tears and she's sharing with me that my daughter told me to come to this with her. I'm here. I've never met a doctora. My daughter's in college. I'm so proud of her. And I want to meet your mom. And I was like, oh my gosh, well, right here's my mom. But she said to me, you're creating familia. And it reminded me of how I define familia, right? You hear this term, this word, familia, familia. What does that mean? For me, familia means your family, your friends, and everyone in your support network. So sometimes our familia, they're not even blood related because, I mean, just keep it real. Like,
Hmm.
sometimes our familia are not our biggest champions.
No.
Sometimes our familia are those people that are in our favorites on our cell phone. Those are our go-to people. Those are the people that are cheering us on no matter what we're doing. And for me to create these spaces where people can build a new familia, build a new support network, people who might look like them, might not, people who might be the same age, probably not,
Mm-hmm.
from the same part of town or not. That's what I remember about that first moment, that first dinner that we hosted.
It's good to have a sense of belonging and community and familia to know that you're not alone in that journey that you're taking. So I'm so glad that you felt that in your very first event.
I think when you see a Latina tell her story, whatever that story is, when they do that without fear, when they're not filtering, you see a shift happen. Like their shoulders drop, their heads are lifted, they're proud to speak the words that are theirs, and they become free through that language. You see an awakening of I'm sharing who I am and what's important to me with the world. And it's a safe space. That's important.
I want to go a little bit deeper, if I can, and ask, are there recurring themes that you hear in women's stories that remind you why this work is urgent?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you ask, what is a Latina story? It's gonna be like, it's life. Because all of these stories are so different, so personal. You know, we're not a monolith. We aren't all like the same. Many of these stories touch on resilience, overcoming, identity, touch on belonging. Some of these stories touch on, you know what? I'm not the first gen in my family. I was born to a woman who has a doctorate, and my grandma also went to college. And that is also a Latina story.
Mhm.
Navigating spaces that were not designed by us for us is hard. And that is that recurring theme. How do we exist in a workplace culture, a community culture, an education culture, and a political culture that was not designed with Latinas in mind? How do we get through that and support each other? That's a big thing.
That is a big thing.
And it reminds me like the reason and the value and the necessity of amplifying Latina voices today, that's what creates it in the sense of urgency because this community is impacted every single minute of every single day with what is occurring in our world right now.
Yeah, and so many people don't have the experience of having family to kind of give that reassurance and that redirection to say what you're experiencing is normal. And so if we don't talk about those things that we're experiencing with someone else who's been through it to kind of help give that reassurance, we kind of we could potentially lose people in that. So I love hearing that you come from a educational background and that you're taking that and also keeping the self-awareness to know I know that everyone though that looks like me hasn't had that same experience and that insight.
Well, and that's one of the things too, because I often share with people how the very first moment that I was on a college campus was at a child development center with my cousins. Our parents were going to college at a community college. I had no idea that my teachers were like student teachers who were learning how to be a teacher. But, that was school to me. And my dad was a full-time student and he didn't get his degree until years later, and my mom also very non-traditional student. So out of high school, I didn't have the parents who had gone through the process to be able to ask them, but they always kind of knew education, there's a key there, and that's the direction. And I think right now, what helps for people is to seek outside of our family because sometimes our family is just limiting, not because of anything other than just knowledge.
Yeah.
And
They don't
these
know. They can't
places,
teach what they don't
yeah,
know,
these
right?
places are just like, let's share that knowledge in a safe space so that you can ask the question, like, how did you pay for college? So that you can ask the question of, I've never asked for a raise before. Do you have any advice? Those kinds of things.
Yeah. So let's talk about allies.
Yeah.
What role do allies have, and how have they played a factor in the growth of Latina Voices Institute?
Oh my gosh. Ally is somebody who's just a supporter, right? Somebody who's like, I'm here, I'm down, I see what you're doing, and I believe in this. And that means first listening and then asking, how can I amplify this without overshadowing? How can I connect or create or provide without becoming the, oh my gosh, look at how great I am by helping these sad, poor people. Like, no, we're not about that. So an ally is, again, somebody who has to understand that equity is collective. Like, it's gonna take all of us. This is not just Latinas in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
We need every single person to know this is the struggle, this is the plan, this is what we need. So join us, watch, engage, share those stories, and do it with your community as well.
Absolutely. And you shared a lot of stories with us thus far. Latina Voices Institute is 2 years in. What is one moment from your events that stays with you even now?
I mean, okay, this is so bizarre. My boyfriend says to me, I it's getting normal that people cry around you. Things that your girlfriend always wants to hear.
You
But I
bring the
think
tears out of everybody.
right, right. But I mean, I think that that is part of it. I am a very empathetic person and I'm very genuine and, just real. These events bring out connection in ways that people probably haven't connected in a while. And one of these moments was a mom who came to an event that I was speaking at, and she cried a lot to tell me that I've never had someone speak to my daughters the way that I wanted to speak to them. I just didn't know how. You talked to them about all the things that they could do and showed how to do that. I wish I knew you, and I wish when I was younger, I had someone like you tell me. I do think that it would have made a difference with what I did. The lady says, is it okay if we take a photo? And I'm like, of course. And then she's like, I'm going to frame this, I'm going to keep this. I'm like, I'm here to support you and your familia, like in any way that I can. I feel like whatever I have learned, I feel compelled to share. So I feel like this research, this journey is not mine, but it's ours.
And Doctora Mary Margaret, I think that's also something that our listeners also have to hear or listen to. Sometimes we think we know all the answers or we have a good idea, but maybe we don't know how to communicate that. And so leveraging other resources in our familia to help us explain things in a different way or capture those gaps that we didn't connect the dots on will help us to be better.
I mean, that's really what I'm trying to do is like, I know
Mhm.
as a mom, I was never the person to help you with your math homework. That was not my jam. But we're going to get you a tutor. We're going to introduce you to my friends that are accountants or whatever. And I think for moms, especially, lean into other people because we don't have to know it all.
No, we don't. Ah, yeah. I mean, I can help you with math, but anything else? So, Mary Margaret, you have events happening nationwide in 2026.
Yeah.
What can attendees expect that make these experiences different from any other conference they may go to next year?
Oh, gosh, yes. We took our Latina Voices experience stuff all across Texas in 2025. And then we saw a huge need to go nationwide. In 2026, we're coming for everyone. You can anticipate, you can expect connection, genuine connection, culture, courage, real authentic talk. This is let's highlight Latina leaders and let's create real conversations. Conversations that are going to spark reflection of who we are. We're going to do some digging in with ourselves and then we're going to be taking action. And that action looks like everything from make sure that you do a follow up with who you met. in that,
Mhm.
at that event. Make sure you do some research online to like, oh, okay, I wanted to know more about this person or this other thing. What can I do next? It's phenomenal.
It sure is. And someone's listening and saying, who are these events designed for? Can I come? Is it just for Latinas? Who's the target audience?
All of these events are for everyone. They're for Latinas, they are for allies, they are for leaders in every place and space, for everybody. And it's anyone who believes in the power of representation and who wants to be part of that movement, because we can only elevate when we have this collective voice. There's so many Latinas that are like, I'm Afro-Latina. My
Yeah.
dad is Mexican and my mom is white. Every person has their own culture. So
Oh,
this is the reminder that whatever your culture is, connect with it and bring that into your place and space, in work, in community, in home, and use that as your power.
when you think about your legacy, what do you hope Latina Voices Institute will represent 10, 20, 50 years from now?
My hope is that 50 years from now, Latina Voices Institute represents this strong, thriving network of empowered storytellers, women whose voices changed policy, changed culture, changed our community, that we have this newness of leadership that's rooted in authenticity, rooted in like who we are, that we didn't have to give up anything of who we are or where we came from, that we amplified that through our voice and we're able to say, this is all of me and I am a leader and I'm taking up all of this space and I'm changing the system.
That's so powerful. For listeners who want to support, attend, or connect, what is the best way to get involved with Latina Voices Institute?
Oh my gosh, yes. So join us by coming and signing up and doing a whole bunch of stuff. But where do you go first? You go to our
Yes.
website, our beautiful designed LatinaVoicesInstitute.com website by Ola Luz Creative Studio, who is our marketing partner. And we're also on social media. So LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of those things. You can sign up for our newsletter right there on our website. Like every single connection strengthens this movement. And we are going to be offering online connection opportunities and in person in the state of Texas and nationwide. So we definitely do have something for everyone.
That's amazing. I can connect in person and virtually. And I will put the website and all of those social media links in the show notes and description for those of you listening. And then as we wrap things up, Doctora Mary Margaret, what is one message from you today that you want to make sure listeners take away with them?
My message for listeners today, if you do nothing else, please know that your voice is power. Tell your story. Tell your story, every part of your story, even if it shakes, even if you're nervous about it, even if you're vulnerable about it. Because I promise you, somewhere out there is another woman waiting and listening so that she can share hers. Use your voice.
Thanks for tuning into Plot Twist. If this story made you pause, reflect, or smile, please share it with someone who's in the middle of their own plot twist. You can catch more episodes on Spotify, YouTube, and connect with me on my socials. Until next time, keep writing your own story.